Alex Matthews, welcome to the podcast.
Watch your boss.
This is the first time officially you have been a guest on the podcast or interviewed on the. You have played a third party role in a podcast before, but you are normally the man behind the lens.
Normally.
You're normally the man who sits behind a computer, editing, adjusting, creating our sick reels, uploading it, doing all that jazz.
Absolutely.
What brings you here today?
I was asked by my dear boss if I would be interested in partaking in the podcast, and I jumped at the opportunity.
You didn't really hesitate at all.
Not at all. I've been thinking about it for a while now, thinking of different directions, different ideas, in terms of every platform that we have, every content that we create, trying to think of something new. And I was waiting for the opportunity to be able to ask some questions that are going to come up later.
Would you have ever asked me if you could be on the podcast, do you think?
I definitely asked you. I think in the beginning I said, was there an opportunity I could get on? You said, absolutely, it'll come up. But
and I just ignored you for 6 months.
Done with it. Like, no, we'll come back to it later.
Yeah.
I knew eventually, but there's more pressing people to interview first. So I knew it was a matter of time.
Yes, it's interesting you say that because I actually think you have a very interesting story. And I think something we've talked about, as a podcast team, we have Mr. Twaz on who's now joined us as well. And we have big dreams and aspirations for this podcast, but basically changing up and changing up our guests and kind of expanding our topics. And I think you are interesting, given that you work in a gym, but your history, your background, your interests are very, very different, I would say, to most of the people on this team.
Yes.
And you have, I think, some very interesting, unique outlooks on life. The first thing I want to mention here is before this podcast started, you just took off your ring.
Yes.
And it's not a wedding ring. It's on your right hand on your fourth finger. Why did you take your ring off?
I think that somebody in my line of work, certainly seeing the way that the internet, public opinion has been changing over the years, it's better to not ground yourself with something that is easily recognizable. An example I gave to you earlier was a birthmark on the face. That's something that is going to be tied directly to you. And if something was to happen or something that was to be connected in a negative way to said object, I'd prefer to remove it from the equation. By showing my ring to anybody, it doesn't add anything to this interview. And the people I work with, live with, they see it because they're my close family, but the internet doesn't need to know everything about me. So I'll leave it to the side.
So can I just dig into that a little bit more?
Go for it.
So you're saying that the ring, if you were to wear a ring in this interview now, people would see that as a representation of Alex. And should something bad happen or should Alex do something bad in the future, the ring just makes you more recognizable.
Absolutely.
Is that the reason?
But it's also in the same sense of how open you want to be. I mean, I think one thing I want everybody to understand, and when first coming to this job, is being blown away by how open everybody is here, especially yourself. I can ask you any question and you would answer it. Now, not necessarily not everybody else would do such a thing, but being able to control what comes out, you choose your words carefully, I would imagine, on the information that you want people to know and understand. You'll choose the right time and the right place. And it's the exact same thing here, just a little bit different in the way that I'm protecting myself. And it's not even protection, it's just removing something that I can control. I don't need to, how do I say? I'm not the one person who's going to be posting on my stories that often in comparison to you, let's say.
Interesting. See, this is why you're interesting, Al.
Why is that?
Just got lots of these, interesting beliefs, values, tidbits on, how you govern your life.
I say it's just weird stuff.
We're all weird, but we're all weird in our own unique, weird way.
Absolutely, and that's the best bit.
But I think what I find interesting about you is, with everyone else in the team having so many very deeply rooted common interests and values. I actually think you share the same values, but you tend to have people who are more like each other, and then you throw this creative guy into the mixer who's come from a very, very different life, very, very different interests. It's just nice to throw in the melting pot. And on that note, I think we should start by talking about your role.
Absolutely.
So what do you do here at the Process and Coastal? Because you're really working for both, right?
Yep.
Partly the Process, partly Coastal. So in your words, what do you do?
In my own words, I am collaborator in terms of creativity, in terms of marketing, when it comes to both Coastal and the process, a way of making content that's engaging both through short media and long length media, as well as my more day-to-day job is recording and editing, as well as a part of the upload schedule. My biggest responsibility is the podcast, from getting it from recording to its final stage on streaming platforms, as well as snips that go to our social media platforms. That's the basic overview of my job, creating content to push our message forward. So if you know process, you know Coastal, you know Ed, you'll know of our philosophies on the wall. It's the same idea, pushing that mentality, pushing that ethos to a new horizon, a new group of people that maybe look at the sport or look at this way of living and think, I don't necessarily agree. The idea is to bring more people in to accept and see the benefits of this way of thinking.
So, with that, knowing that your responsibility is to try to take what we're doing here and the things we believe in and the way we do it and find a way through these different mediums to share it with the world. How has that process been for you? Because I know when you first came, you didn't know anything about us. You basically step into this organization you know nothing about, to a point now where you've got a really good grasp, I think, of the organization and what we stand for and what kind of content we want. What's that process been like?
Well, I think I can give a story. The best gives the example is when I first started here, we were going, what was our 3-week challenge? What competition was it?
Summer Throwdown?
Not Summer Throwdown, last.
CrossFit Open.
CrossFit
the Open.
Yes.
You came in the Open, yeah.
So my job coming on and not knowing anything about shooting style, schedule, edit, and being dropped into one of the busiest parts of the year, creating content that was needed to be uploaded within the hour, it was a very quick learning curve to need to grasp. And I think that was the best introduction I could possibly have to get myself integrated into the team as quickly as possible. And I think that I found myself being bombarded by new information, and still am. I still find myself having to Google certain words. I'm still learning CrossFit terminology and being like, what does this word say? What does this word mean? But I think that's the beauty of this, because every day I'm learning something new. Every day I'm improving myself in a capacity that I didn't even know I had the ability to improve. It's eye-opening starting somewhere that you're not knowing anything and not knowing the particulars of producing the content for you guys, and falling in love with that every day. It sounds silly, but I do love this job.
Did you ever envision that you'd be working in the gym one day?
Absolutely not. My experience with CrossFit, and gyms in general, athletes, was my time in Shanghai working with gyms, F45, Pure, as well as working with smaller yoga studio companies. So to be honest, when you watch athletes and you're behind the camera, if you're not in that world, you can start to disconnect from it because you're not doing it. But as you start, I think that's the thing, when I find myself giggling at videos that we've made, is because it's not the content that's making me laugh, it's the people. And that's what I love about this team that we have here. Everybody has their own personality, and everyone still is showing me new areas of who they are. And it's just a cherry on top of this job. Be able to still be learning something new every single day, both people and my career.
So how do you do it? We've given you a lot of freedom, right? And basically said, right, Al, you come in and you do what you want to do. Obviously some things that we know we have to do and ways we want things to be done. But how do you do it? You've got such a big team. You're a very diverse team, lots of different personalities. We've got lots of different avenues to business. We've got Coastal Fitness, the gym. We've got the online programs. We've got the affiliates. We've got the podcast. Like, how do you go about finding a way to execute in the best way possible?
It's lots of arguing, trying to get people to be in front of a camera.
So maybe that's a good question. What's been the hardest thing?
Hardest thing is finding the compromise between what's right for the platform? What do coaches find interesting enough to film? And what is something that people, a randomer like me, would want to watch? And I try and shoot content based on that philosophy. Now, whereas, let's say, Ed would create more tutorial videos, maybe something that is more along the lines of the people that already have a membership here. But the content I'm trying to create is you don't need to know anything. Maybe you've had this idea in your head that you want to start working out. Maybe you want to get into shape, but you just haven't had that drive, or you haven't found the right feeling behind the program, behind the workout, where you're going. One word is like a Globo gym. The fact that it's just a maze. It's you go in, there's lots of different people doing things. Nobody's talking to each other. You just are expected to know from day one as soon as you walk in. Or you can pay a package and get somebody to teach you. Not everybody has that finance. So the content I wanted to create, or I'm still creating, is around the idea that it's the personality that connects you to the new way of thinking. If Ed can make a video and people can connect with you and say, actually, I really like what he's saying. I want to change to be better. That's better than us creating content for the people that already have the mindset. People who already have, they can go and find 1,000 videos on how to do a muscle snatch, whatever. But our audience, I think the untapped audience, is the people that want to listen to what you have to say. In the same way that somebody would love to listen to Tammy or Liam more than you. We have so many different kinds of people here. I think that's where my mind is sort of driven towards. It's getting the people that don't know that they could love CrossFit as much as you guys do.
Yeah, I think that was something I learned in our conversations, especially when you first came on, which is, how do we showcase the people and the personalities more? Knowing that so many people come to the process or Coastal or any organization, in fact, because of the people who are there, right? There's this connection. Maybe this is like this liking that you have for the person. Maybe there's this shared common ground that you feel this person has. And, in olden day, pre-social media times, you'd only ever find that out by maybe, being recommended by another person that, oh, hey, Al, I think you would like this person.
Yep.
Or just actually having a conversation and meeting that person, deciding for yourself, do I like this person? Social media now has given us this opportunity to now connect people with like a global audience that you may never ever meet. And I think, me being challenged to say, rather than thinking about the program or the training, like, how about just more of you, just being you? And I thought that was it was really good. It was really cool. And it totally made sense to me.
I think it's because, as we said about the hurdles, it's then getting coaches and getting content that is meeting in that middle. It's finding the sweet spot of content that people want to make and people want to watch. And I think if I ask you a question, would you say that Coastal is for beginners? Would you say that somebody who doesn't know anything about CrossFit, working out, how their body works, if they were to walk in and say, right, here's my money, I want to go?
No.
Why is that?
Well, generally speaking, when you look at the majority of the people who walk in here, like, they have had some form of experience with fitness, wellness, or sport. And I think when you look at probably a lot of CrossFit gyms, that's the case, because it's high barriers to entry. There's lots of things you have to do before you can step into your very first class. It's quite intimidating. Like, there's really fit people, generally speaking, doing really scary, pretty impressive things. So I think naturally I see it as kind of like a stepping stone in people's fitness journey. Some people catch it right at the beginning. So we do have some people, it's been the very first bit of fitness that they've ever done. But generally speaking, most people, this is like a bit further down their fitness, health, and sport journey.
Yeah, I mean, we would say that Coastal is an advanced CrossFit community.
In the world of group classes, and yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. And so then, do we create content that matches those group of people? We are denying ourselves this whole group of people that haven't even got into the mindset, let alone the drive of wanting to improve themselves, wanting to be better for themselves. That's a group that the mindset that we have created here and the lessons that we teach is perfect for those people. And everybody who has been visiting me here in Hong Kong, and I would always recommend, hey, come do a session with us. Just even them walking into the gym and seeing the way that coaches interact with members, classes, PTs, or just even the way that coaches interact with each other, it seems more than just a workplace. It's a community. And that's where people go, oh man, I wish I could be here. And I go, well, actually, you need to be better. You need to be good. You need to have a level of commitment and understanding to be amongst these people. So if I was to say, I've got a friend moving to Hong Kong and they were interested, what's the mindset they should have going in brand new to CrossFit?
Well, I think, to CrossFit or to Coastal?
Should we say CrossFit first?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the mindset should be the same as anything, really. Like going with an open mind, going with a beginner's mind, seek to understand. I think those are three very important places that we all need to start. I think especially with something like CrossFit, because there is a lot of bad rap out there. There's a lot of negative media and conversation around CrossFit. Either someone's had a friend or know of a friend who's been to a CrossFit gym, probably got injured, maybe got burnt out, has moved on to something else, and that has now, been kind of burnt into their memory. Or you go online and you type in CrossFit. I'd probably say more than half the things you're going to see are going to be probably negative, to be honest.
Do you think that's warranted?
Yeah, I do think it's warranted. I do think it's warranted because there are, within any industry, where there is freedom of expression. Right. And what I mean by that is that CrossFit, it's not like an F45. An F45, the program is set. The way that they deliver the program is the same no matter where you go in the world. So you're getting consistency there. CrossFit, you can do a level 1 certification, 2 days, pass a multiple choice exam, and you can open up a CrossFit gym. So what you have now, and because there is no one definitive way to coach it, there's no one definitive way to program it, there's no one definitive way to run your organization, we've got this massive variety and variance in CrossFit gyms. Some doing really, really, really good work, some doing terrible work. And the same can be said for like any industry. Like you've got great physios, you've got terrible physios, you've got awesome doctors, you've got terrible doctors, you've got great football teams, you've got awful football teams. So we're just kind of one of those as well. So I would say 100% that because of the nature of what it takes to open up a CrossFit gym, and therefore how CrossFit gyms are run, like I think it's totally justified that people have maybe a negative connotation around CrossFit.
It's interesting you brought up the negative side of it, because it didn't even come to me to think about the downsides of this almost cult-like community that...
Well, can I ask you then, what was your experience of CrossFit before coming here? Had you ever been to a CrossFit gym or?
So my first experience probably was the F45 way, which arguably is CrossFit.
No. Great. I'm not saying it's bad, but definitely not the same. But with that said, sorry to cut you off.
No worries.
But there you go. That's a perfect example. Someone who doesn't necessarily have a fitness background, they're starting at 45 and you're like, oh, is this CrossFit?
Yeah.
Maybe this is CrossFit. So there you go. Like, just, not clearly defined boundaries as to what is and what isn't CrossFit is going to lead to things like that happening. So someone can have a bad F45 experience and then be like, I had a really bad CrossFit experience.
And just to say, F45, you are good guys. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, you guys are awesome.
Back in Shanghai.
Doing some amazing... No, I just think F45 is doing some amazing stuff.
I think there isn't a right or wrong way to do it. It's based on the person who's having the mentality to do said exercise. How you get out of bed in the morning is your drive. For example, if I train with Build, with Liam, Tammy, love them to bits, but I find myself one day a week not wanting to train them and do my own thing. If that's going out for a run, if that is doing 20 to 30 minutes on a bike, I find myself loving that freedom to say, okay, I love what we're doing, but I actually want to do this differently today.
Why is that, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, one thing, I do love this job. I've said this. I'm going to keep saying it many, many times.
When you're doing a podcast with the boss, you kind of have to say
I've got to keep saying it. But we don't have windows in here. And my friends call this the bunker.
I call it a casino.
There you go then. So I think if you really want to feel the great, you want to get outside, have a couple minutes, want to combine the two. have the exercise, but go outside and do it. And we've got such beautiful weather here. Not even taking into consideration of how lucky, certainly for somebody like me, to be in a city like this. It's incredible. Still find myself looking up from my phone, walking home, and being like, "How did I not see that? How did I not see that beautiful building or that amazing moment two people shared together on the street?" And I was just staring at my phone, looking at silly YouTube videos or Instagrams. There's so much beauty, even something as simple as taking a break from editing and going outside, have a 10-minute, 5-minute walk. I think that's where I'm still learning to find the balance between everything: work, life, improvement, my mental health. It's all still very much a learning curve for me right now. This is by far the most uh, the most positive I've ever felt in every regard. That there's nothing holding me back, and certainly the environment that you've created has made me feel like I can actually be who I want to be instead of trying to be something else.
Would you elaborate on that?
People who know me, they'll know that there are some things I like to keep to myself. For example, the ring. But the environment among these coaches, these guys, the members, I think, just a side tangent, when I first started it here, I was very eager to make a friend group as quickly as possible. And you said to me, I wouldn't worry too much about that. This job is very social. You probably end up going to be tired by the end of the day. You don't want to go out. You just want to rest. I kind of thought, I don't really, I'm working in a gym. I'm not a coach. I wouldn't be in that same capacity. But actually, even just with coaches, it's incredibly social. The guys here, we're so in tune to connect with each other. And of course, we have our own favorites here and there. But I think once Monday morning, all on the floor, all training together, music's blaring. It's like a little symphony. We all work together. We just glide through each other, and that it gives you the energy to do the workout. It's not the same when you're doing it by yourself. Or if I say, oh, I'm going to miss the morning session, I'm going to go train 5 p.m. It's not the same. So the social aspect of just working in this very open environment, combined with the fact that we have our reoccurring members, the members that you build relationships with, or the ones that you say, oh, he's my favorite, she's my favorite, I'm going to go and talk to her. I think for me, as somebody who didn't believe that this was a social job, I was very much surprised when I realized actually there's a lot of connection, not only with coaches, but also with members as well.
So, okay, bringing this into kind of like a summary from day one to now, how do you think you have evolved? Have you evolved? Have you changed?
Oh gosh, I would say I've changed immensely. The person that when I first started here was really, like I said, very eager to be friends, to find safe footing in the fact that you can talk to somebody as a peer. And I realized that you have got to kind of accept the loneliness, accept where you are and the current position you are living in, and let all that, it's not paranoia, anxiety, you put it to the side and say, look, it will come. Why don't you just start concentrating on yourself? And I think that's where it's the beauty of that. I've been looking more at myself than outwards. So I think that's the biggest change for me.
And what has contributed to you now looking more inwards versus outwards? Because I agree. I've seen that change in you a lot.
I think it's more self-love. I think now I'm looking at myself and going, actually, that's a positive. That's a positive. Actually, I'm starting to like myself more now. Maybe people that could connect with this and say that the very important lesson I learned was you've got to love yourself. No matter your flaws, no matter your downsides, no matter who you are, you've got to love yourself. You can't love anybody else until you do that. And I think that goes the same thing for friends as well. Me wanting to be friends with Ed Lou, Grant, whoever, why should they take notice of me if I'm not giving them the pure, healthy, happy side of me? If I'm giving them something that's fake just so I can feel that I'm connecting, then I would understand them saying, "Yeah, we don't see you as a friend." They're not being a genuine person.
Mm.
So, yeah, I think that for me, the big factor is that I've got nothing to hide with you guys.
Yeah, and I think that's what I've seen. You know, when you first came, I think you had a lot of walls
Mhm.
built up around you. Um, Maybe there was parts to you that you didn't feel comfortable sharing,
Mm.
or perhaps life before Coastal meant that someone had to earn that right to be able to be let into Alex's world. And so I think I felt that there was. It took a long while for me to work out who Alex really
Mm.
was, and as you started to kind of like knock down those walls yourself, and we started to see like at the essence and at the core who you were, but also seeing that there was a lot of change and growth happening. So I think the person at the core that you came in here as has evolved a lot and is continuing to evolve, and it's very very cool to see. As I want to go back to the quote of you have to love yourself
Yes.
before anyone can love you. I think about that quote all the time
Mm.
because I remember saying it to my mates. It was almost became a bit of a gag, being like, whenever I would say it, in jest, people would just say Ed just loves himself. But I'm like, that's not really what we're trying to say here. What I think is that, if you can learn to love yourself and you can learn to see all your imperfections, all the great sides to you, you can help better communicate that. If you can understand yourself
Mm.
better than anyone else, you can communicate that to a partner, a friend, a colleague, and you have a massive part to play in the development of a relationship. But I think also like knowing thyself is a very powerful place that one must start if eventually at some point in your life you want to know someone else.
Mm.
And whether that's in a friendship relationship, again, a colleague, an intimate relationship, if you've been through the journey yourself of trying to figure out who you are and love yourself, well then there's a much greater likelihood that you can then do that to someone else,
Yeah.
having been through that journey once.
Have you seen, side tangent to this thought, have you seen Train Spotting?
I have, yeah.
So you know the saying, choose life.
Mhm.
I'm not going to quote it because I can't remember all of it, but the motto was based off of a no drugs campaign. Choose life, choose the thing, and it became sort of a cynical way of saying, well, what is life? Life is getting a flat screen, getting a car, getting a house. But actually, I would equate it quite close to loving yourself and choose life. Having that ability to be in the moment, you will affect other people around you. Same way that I can say from my experience of being here is that Tammy has been detrimental to that person coming out, but she'd never needed to do it. She was just being herself. The person who she was brought me out of my shell. In the same way that if I do love myself and I'm just treat everybody the same exact way, eventually that confidence, that love, that vulnerability will bring somebody else out.
Mhm.
And I think eh, again, same thing with finding the beauty in life, the small things, and being able to feel confident in your own skin, your own mind, is detrimental. And this, what I've learned from here, starting day one, is you got to kick any negative thoughts to the curb and just power through.
So have you done that?
I think it's brute force, to be honest. Every day I'll walk in and I know that if I ever look a certain way, if I'm feeling a certain way, the guys in this office and girls will pick up on it.
Mm.
Even if it's the smallest bit, it will be picked up and then go, how you doing? Like, what's wrong? And it's never encroaching into my personal life where I wouldn't want to talk about it. But I would also say that it's just enough to kind of poke the bear and say, hey, open up. Like, what's going on today? And it could be something as simple as, oh, I just didn't get enough sleep. Oh, I just didn't get, I'm not just feeling 100% today. And that's perfectly fine. Those days are allowed to happen. You don't have to be the ray of sunshine on the top of the hill every single day. But it's nice to know that also when you're having that when you're having a day that's not 100%, that the people around you, the people here, are going to be able to support you in every capacity. If that's just a pat on the shoulder, like we've discussed about how we show our love language, it could be a pat on the shoulder. It could be, hey, let's go for a 5-minute walk. I love that as well about you, Ed, where I can, if I know I've got an issue, a normal, typical boss that you might feel a bit worried to take up 5 minutes of his time. But instead, we can talk to you. We can go outside, we can have a conversation, and you're there to listen, not as a boss, but as somebody who wants to see the best for their employees and friends as well. So I think that environment that sort of brute forced me into, if you're feeling down, there are people here who care. People who are here that want to know what's wrong with you. There's no hiding. There's no, yeah, I'm fine. I'm okay. There is confront it. They will confront it for you. And that has been very important to waking up every day and going, yeah, you know what? I'm not feeling 100% today, but I know why now. And another thing also,
forcing you to look beneath the hood a little bit.
Absolutely. One thing is, whenever I do say anything about my day, how I'm feeling, something that's happened, you will always say, well, why do you think that then? Why do you think, if you say, oh, I'm feeling really tired, well, why is that, mate? Oh, I'm not feeling 100%. Yeah, but why though? What happened? You're confronting me with that simple question to be like, hey, have you actually had a thought about it? Have you actually taken the moment to really ask yourself that question? Why do I feel like that today? And I think we're very accustomed to putting that into the back and just not thinking about it. Just being like, today's a shit day. I'm not going to even try to put together the pieces to say why it was a shit day.
Yeah, I always think about it in my own self. Again, like going back to like love yourself before you can love everyone else. I caught myself out doing that in the past. You know, just saying I was having a good day or a bad day and never actually digging into it. And then I got to a point in life where I was like, but why am I actually having a good day? Because if I don't figure out why I'm having a good day or why I'm having a shit day, then I'm not in control of my life. And my life is just going to control me, which is essentially what it was at that time. And so just asking that simple question, it allows you to take control somewhat, right? It's like, what's in your control? What's out of your control? We talk about that all the time. And so it's funny you say that because I actually don't really think about me saying that. But just as you're saying that, I'm thinking just how often I do say that. When I ask someone how they're doing, even just, passing up these stairs, and if they say, I'm fine, I'm like, ooh.
Oh, no. What?
Doesn't sound...
Everybody. You do it to everybody.
Is everything okay?
Yeah.
Oh, no, yeah, I'm good. I'm okay. Just sounded like it wasn't that good. Like, you sure?
If you're hearing this is exactly verbatim what he would be saying to you. The feeling that you get, you go, oh shit, maybe I should answer. Like maybe that answer wasn't good enough. I should give more detail. I think you don't even know you're doing it, but it makes that gut feeling down. Be like, maybe I should do a bit of self-love and figure out what this feeling is. Just through that simple exchange of words, meeting on the stairs, you've already made somebody question the way they are today. But my question to you, do you love yourself?
Yeah.
100%?
There are parts of me that I want to love more, for sure. But I feel like my life is a journey of, I don't know if loving is the thing that I'm striving for, but it's acceptance and freedom, right? That's really what I want. And so I heard a quote on a podcast yesterday, which was that people and circumstances will continue to remind you where you're not free.
Okay. So
really basically the things that create tension in you are generally going to be the things that perhaps you haven't dug into yet. You don't fully understand, don't comprehend. And so if people and circumstances are reminding you where you're not free yet, then you've got the choice. Do you want to continue to be shackled to the things that make you feel uncomfortable, or do you want to lean in, figure out why they make you feel the way they do, and try to find freedom with it? Right. So that's where I I feel like that's how I want to live my life, is constantly finding the things that create discomfort or the areas that I don't feel free in, and figure out what it is under the hood that's making me feel that way, find a means of understanding it, and then accepting it and feeling free. Now, freedom, I think there's a difference between freedom and love, though, because there's going to be parts of me that I think till the day that I die, I may never love. But like, accepting them and knowing that they're a part of me, or I've done everything I can, or everything I'm willing to do within my power to improve the situation, then that's okay.
Can you give me a percentage? I know it's a difficult question, but
that is hard.
I'm curious.
Yeah. I mean,
I can go first if that helps.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Go.
I mean, in talking about this, I mean, I would say that just even starting here, I've grown to love myself a lot more, but I'm definitely not at 100%.
Yeah.
I would equate myself more to something like 70-30. 70% I love myself, 30% I still don't even want to think about. And it kind of gives me an anxiety to think about the way that you want to live your life, which is, if I feel something, I'm going to attack it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for it.
I think, when I first decided to live my life that way, it was very, very, very overwhelming, because you're realizing every hour, every day that there's something else. And you're like, oh my God, I haven't even got started on the first thing. There's 10 more things that have popped up today. And you realize that there's just so much work to be done. But that has been the path that I've been on. It's just constantly putting in the work on every time one of those things come up. And I don't shy away from it. Like, there are things that I would have shied away. That took me years to come to the point where I'm like, okay, time to dig in and really understand why the hell I'm this way, or I think this way, or I feel this way about fill in the blank. So life has just been like a constant now chipping away. I'd probably say in the last like 6 years of existence has been this like slow chipping away of feeling something, thinking about how that makes me feel, then putting an action to it. What do I want to do? What do I want to do about that? And I think that for most of the things for most of the things on my plate in my life right now, I have a very good understanding of. Now, I'm only 35. There's a lot only 35. There's a lot more, hopefully, years of existence that lie ahead of me. And with every year of existence, there's going to be new challenges, new things that I've never experienced before. And a part of me really loves the idea of what lies ahead for me. What new challenges is life going to throw at me, and how am I going to navigate them? And so now when challenges come my way, I actually like get this weird excitement within me where I'm like, okay, I'm actually really looking forward to finding because I know I'm going to do it. I know it's going to happen. It might take a day, it might take a week, it might take a year, but at some point I'm going to persevere through this thing and feel like a sense of like accomplishment and victory. And I actually really enjoy and look forward to those things in a weird way. And honestly, I think it's what keeps me coming back to running a business, because running a business is hard. It's really, really, really hard work all the time. But if you're someone who loves the challenges that come your way, be it in a business, then that's actually what keeps me here. It's like, if I didn't have this, then yeah, sure, life would be probably quite nice, to be honest. Like, you'd have a lot less challenge, a lot less stress, but then you're also probably not experiencing that feeling of accomplishment and growth and moving forward. And I like that.
But you can obviously appreciate the fact that for other people, that sounds absolutely terrifying.
Well, because I was that other person. So I totally understand.
So for the people that are listening right now thinking, how the hell do I get to that point? And you said the beginning was so difficult. What was the change? If you give me an example of one of the first things you wanted to fix, or one thing you wanted to change, how did you get there?
Well, I always think of the quote, which is, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Ooh, that's good. I've heard that before.
Right. So we are the students, right? But sometimes we're just not ready for that teacher yet. And I would say that looking back, there has been many, many poignant moments in my life where life has intervened somehow and thrown an obstacle at me. And I have had the choice to either adapt and overcome, or let that continue to show itself. So it's kind of like, I always think about it as like the universe is going to teach you the same curriculum over and over again until you find a way to pass it. And when you can find a way to pass that curriculum, it's not like life's going to stop throwing curriculums at you. You're just going to move to the next level.
Mm.
Right. And then it's like you're now on the next level. Life's going to throw you some more curriculum. And when you can figure out a way to pass it, you move on to the next level. And life is just continuing to climb these levels forever and ever. You know, you start in primary school, then you're in secondary school, then you're university, then you're whatever comes after that until the day you die. The realism of all of it is that some of us are stuck on the same curriculum forever.
Why is that? Why are people stuck there?
I mean, it could be so many things. Like, I certainly know that for me, it was about the people I was surrounding myself with. And if I was surrounding myself with people who I have done in the past, who, like me at that point in time, were content and happy being stuck in the same curriculum, well, then I never saw the need to change, or I never felt the inspiration to change because I couldn't see it from anyone else. And I do really believe that, you know, who you surround yourself with are the people who have the biggest impacts on your life. And so that's one of them, right? You surround yourself with the person of people who inspire you to want to be like them. Like like you said, you come into this organization and maybe it wasn't something you were not necessarily looking for, but you made the choice by seeing the people around you that you wanted to change, to be, you know, to take various aspects of the different people you spend with every day to upgrade yourself. No one else could have made that decision for you.
Yep.
You know, it didn't matter how many times I told you have to do this for your job, because I've had plenty of people work for this organization who are in the same position as you, who came in not aligning and decided that they didn't want to align. You made the decision, not to say that you weren't aligning, but I want to do everything with my power to upgrade. So, you know, if I put this back on you now, you know,
No.
yeah, you know, there was something that made you think, okay, like, here is a life intervention. I mean, put into this new company. I've got this opportunity and I've got a decision now. Do I change or do I not?
So what's the question?
What pushed you to make the decision to commit to change? Because just to expand, I think there was many aspects of you that had been a certain way for quite a long time, like ingrained Alex habits or ingrained things that made up you, that I could see, because I could tell in our conversations and just being around you, like, okay, there are some things that have, like, maybe they're past traumas, maybe they're past experience, they're things that are making up who Al is right now that are, like, deeply ingrained. And for some people that may never leave them, but I've seen you, like, work with them, and now the person I'm sitting in front of right now is a very different person to who first stepped into Coastal. So why did you decide to make that change?
I mean, absolutely, 100%. It's changed me in the sense of it's the people, like what you've exactly just said. Environment. You surround yourself with good people. You want to do good, and the impression I got when I first joined here was there's people who genuinely want to better themselves. And I'd never been around people like that. It's always because of something else that they'll do something. Now, let's take it, for example, looking good. I will always remember Liam saying, well, Liam, why do you want to look good? And he goes, because I want to look good naked. And then you would start to dig deeper and think, well, why? Why do you care? You know, I
think we did a podcast episode.
You have done it. Hey, go back and listen to it. But to summarize it, he just wants to feel good. He wants, however old he gets, he wants to keep looking at himself and going, I love myself. And I'd never experienced that before. I'd never experienced true health with who you are and mentally where you are in your life. And I thought, my God, I have to get on this. Whatever drugs these guys are taking, I need some of it. Because it's the drive, the willingness to get up every morning and do this job, which isn't for everybody. But I found myself becoming more and more addicted to the way you guys view life. Certainly when I first started here, I wasn't training with you guys when we first started. It took me a while before I got the confidence to even get on the floor with you guys. And then I was still debating to myself, well, you know, I'm not a coach. I'm not as strong as these guys. I'm only going to be taking up space. And I would definitely say I still feel that one in particular. But that slowly started to fade away and go, well, no, you're part of the team. You are trying to better yourself. That's all these guys care about. Ant is not going to look at me and go, oh, Alex, you're weak. You can't lift that. He's going to go, if you're there, doing the workout, then I'll give you the respect. Doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter how strong, how much you can lift. If you're putting in the work and wanting to improve, the people around you are going to see it and they're going to give you even more energy to keep going. So I do apologize to Tammy and Liam. I'm sure they're sick and tired of me being there with them with Build and being like, Alex, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But genuinely, and I've told both of them, thank you so much. And thank you to the entire team, because going back to what you said, what made me accept this way is because, one, I'd never experienced such an environment like this before. And two, I've always wanted to better myself. I've just never found the outlet, never found the right way to do it. And I think that also ties back into loving yourself. Well, I don't really like myself, so why should I improve? And now I'm asking hard, serious questions about who I am, where I am, what I'm doing. These are questions I should have asked myself years ago. But now I'm finally asking them, and I'm in the right place to do that.
Student wasn't ready then.
Suppose so. But I also think that, take, for example, somebody else who maybe isn't enjoying life. Maybe they're in a dead-end job, or maybe they don't know what they want to do. Maybe I think a lot of people who go to university and study something and they think, actually, I don't care about this subject at all.
That was me.
What were you studying?
Marketing management.
Yes, kind of. I mean, that must have helped a little bit here.
Sorry, mate. Zero interest whatsoever.
But I mean,
but continue. What your question? Where were you going with your question?
My question is for the people that have those sort of barriers in front of them, because going back to the way that you chose to change, you chose to look at the negative and go, right, how do I change that? How do I improve myself? But somebody who necessarily doesn't love themselves for a variety of different reasons would find it impossible to get started, let alone even start to confront those issues. So I was very lucky. I think I came in with the want to improve. It was just you guys showed me how. But then if it's a whole different story when somebody doesn't want to improve themselves or doesn't want to change. They're stuck in the same way.
And I think in that case, it's like that person has to find. No one's going to change that person until that person decides they got to change themselves. Now, there's things that can help. If you're that person and perhaps that change is what you need, but you have no idea how to start it. Yeah. Maybe you don't even know that change is needed, but you're just not happy, or whatever, fill in the blank. Inspiration, like I said, it's intervention or inspiration, right? Those are normally two like big roadblocks that come into our lives and just shake everything up.
Yes.
So intervention is like you lose your job, you break up with your partner, there's a death in a family, you've run into debt, like things where suddenly you need to change and do something different because what you're currently doing is not leading you anywhere. And then inspiration can probably come kind of what you experience, right? Being inspired by the people around you made you see that you could change and you wanted to, emulate the environment that you had put yourself in. And so if you can understand that change can come from intervention or inspiration, are you putting yourself in a position in your life where either of those two things can happen? Intervention doesn't have to be something that's non-planned and not forecast. It doesn't have to be just this lightning bolt that comes in and fucks everything up. You could, like step into an uncomfortable environment, step into somewhere is going to be, is going to have a lot of discomfort. You probably don't want to do. All your inhibitions are telling you don't do it, but some part of you is telling you to do it. That is an intervention that you are making a conscious choice to do, knowing that it's probably something good, if you can persevere, is going to come from it.
Absolutely.
And then in inspiration, it's like, social media, like who are you following? Who are you watching? What are you spending your free time doing? Who are the people that you go for coffees with? Who are the people you hang out with? What are the conversations you're having every single day? And, I always remember this when I went down the route of studying Joe Dispenza, who wrote a book called How to Break the Habit of Being Yourself. Like who you are today is a product of the things that you consume every single day. And if you want to change the person that you are right now, but you're not willing to change the things that you consume and do every single day, and I mean like down to the details of like, what road do you take when you walk to work? Do you
Yep.
take the MTR or do you take the taxi?
Yep.
Who do you speak to? Who do you message? Who pops up on Instagram when you open up your page? What's the first thing you search on YouTube? Like all of these things, if those aren't changing, well, every time you look at any one of those things, you're reinforcing the person that you currently are. And if you want to change the person that you are, you got to change something, right? So you got to identify those things in your day that you need to remove to break the habit or break the cycle of you being you. Do it.
Yep.
And I've got stories of, having to just realizing that it was a certain person I followed on social media that triggered a certain feeling that I was like, maybe if I just mute this person, that would stop the 5 hours of thoughts that come every time I see this person. And you don't know until you do it.
Yep.
Right? So you just got to do it, try it. Okay, is this positively or negatively impacting me? Oh, I feel a lot better when I don't follow that person. Cool. I'm going to keep that there. When I speak to this person, how does it make me feel? Okay, maybe if I stop speaking to this person, I feel better.
Yep.
Okay. It's just like, it's a process of like just slow removal and assessment.
It is.
Yeah.
I totally agree. It's integral to get rid of the stuff that's slowing you down.
And
The stuff that's
and going
weighing
back
you
to an organization, right? Maybe this is a great place for us to finish this. It's like, what has had such an impact on you is the fact that there is a culture here. There's a culture that we're constantly building, we're constantly trying to improve. But really what we're saying is that the everyone who's a part of this organization is aligned in some way. Now, if you came in here and we had 20 people, all with completely different views, different beliefs, all pulling in different directions, there wouldn't be that like overall feeling of like, wow, like this is I want to be like this environment. And so, and the same thing, like you've got to remove toxic energies that aren't aligned. And the more you can create that alignment, how powerful it can be, where you can bring someone who's maybe come from a completely different walk of life and they immediately get it. And that has been like, I don't know, it's really cool to have this conversation with you and hear your experience, because that has been the goal.
Yes.
When I set out, there is always every organization has an underlying culture, whether you think about culture or not, whether it's you're a leader and you're thinking about trying to create a culture, or you're just showing up every day and doing your job, a culture is going to form probably most of the times around the person or people leading it. Right. And I knew when I realized that the culture of this organization was not what I wanted it to be. And I had a big part to play in that. And I wanted to change that for the better. And when I say better, according to what I believed a good, healthy culture for my organization wanted to be. So it's not saying that I'm right or wrong or better or worse than anyone else, but just in what I believed in. I knew that it was going to be a long process. And so, there's books will say, a culture takes 6 years to form. And, in those early 6 years, you're constantly having to remind people what the culture is every day. Remember, we don't do this, we do this. And, sometimes it feels like you're never going to get out of that. And it's like, when is this culture going to form? But now we're in a position where this is kind of unspoken feeling that you experienced when you stepped in and you just felt it because you could see it and you could experience it. That is like, for me, a huge step forward in terms of, us developing the culture here. And, people talk about like Liverpool Football Club, one of the strongest cultures. And apparently you walk into Anfield and you just feel it. It's like there's a way that they do things. There's a way that they speak. There's a certain level of respect. And it's just like, you don't need to read a manual. You don't need to be told what to do, but you just get it.
Yes.
And if you don't get it, you get churned out pretty damn quick. And I would say that's kind of what happens here. Like, you look at our members are awesome. They're all reflections of us. There's never this contract that we have to get them to sign, or this interview process that we have to put them through. Like, your vibe attracts your tribe.
Yep.
Right. And if that vibe is strong and it's authentic, then people see it. And you shouldn't ever have to work hard at trying to explain it or, make people see it or understand it.
You've taken it verbatim for the way that I have felt when I came into this place. When I came in, not knowing anything, moving to a completely new city, not knowing the way that things work. And the environment was you can be yourself here. There's people here who know what they're doing. They know the way they feel, because that's the way they want to feel. And if you want to be part of that team, we'll let you in. If you don't, we'll also respect you for that. You can be your own person as long as you're being true to yourself. That mentality that you've created here has been so eye-opening. I'm sure has affected other people as well. People, past colleagues, members who come here, they all get that inspiration. They all get that feeling from the way that you started. But my question to you, though, is if you look at previous Ed, you go back in time, maybe mid-20s, early 20s, do you think he would have accepted this? He would have accepted the way that you now think? Or do you think that he would say, oh, no, I'm amazing, I can do this? Your previous self be on board with the way you are now?
I think no. But I mean, 25-year-old Ed would have no idea that this was even possible. Because 25-year-old Ed was a fixed-minded person who thought that how I am is how I was born and brought into this world, and I can't change that. And so to look forward 10 years and see how much growth and change has happened, 25-year-old Ed would have been like, that's a different person.
Yeah.
How has that happened,
I think it's interesting if 25-year-old Ed walked into the gym saying, hey, I want a membership, and you obviously it's not you, would you look at yourself and go, yeah, he's not getting a membership? Jog on, lad.
I think 25-year-old Ed would have been very insecure, would have felt threatened, and would have felt the need to impose himself. And that would have, the way he would have done that would have been by not being authentic, by people pleasing, and by abandoning himself essentially in the quest of being liked and accepted by others.
But isn't that incredible that you're the one who's made this environment, yet younger you would never have accepted, well, not accepted it, but not fully embraced it.
Yeah.
And the change that you've made from that to this, you should respect that your own journey to helping other people has been detrimental to even looking at past you and saying, who is that guy? I'm amazing now, but I'm also making other people amazing.
Yeah. It's like, with every
props to you, Ed. That's
thank
what I'm
you,
trying to say,
Al.
yeah.
No, thank you. I think it's like, every season of life demands a new version of ourselves, and we're just rolling through seasons as every year. It doesn't necessarily mean the seasons are moving forward or backwards, but it's a different version of you. And if you believe that your vibe attracts your tribe, every new version of you is going to have a ripple effect on the people and the communities around you. And that's probably just what's happened here, is that as I've evolved, my community has evolved. The people in this team, people down, on the training floor who are our members, they've evolved as I have evolved. And so, 10 years ago, there was probably more people in this organization, staff and community members, who are the same as 25-year-old, insecure, people-pleasing, no value Ed. No values Ed. Like, that was a ripple effect to the people that I attracted.
We need a phone in. We have to have somebody who knew 25-year-old Ed.
Plenty.
But I have a question for you, Ed.
Yeah.
Ed, because obviously somebody who edits this podcast and wants to see it, wants to see more people to be able to hear your words, to be able to hear the message you're putting forward. Who is somebody who you'd like to interview? Who's somebody that, preferably alive, it's somebody that would be interesting to hear their story, but also be able to have a conversation with?
Yeah, I think what attracts me firstly to the people I want to have conversations with, on this podcast especially, is I see this as a huge learning opportunity, right? Every time I sit down with someone, I learn something new. And so I think if I'm going to answer this question, it'll be more about how can I learn from this person versus me sharing. I mean, if they want to find out about me, they can ask me a question, sure. But, I just would love to just, pick their brains and hear about everything. I mean, I don't actually have an answer. I know you asked me this question before the podcast.
I gave him a hint.
I would, okay. People, I guess I'm thinking about people who don't actually share that much, who I think are in very unique, maybe positions or have very unique experiences. I'm going to say it anyway, like Conor McGregor. I would love to understand that guy and how he works.
Do you think you'd be able to?
Well, Connor, if you're listening,
He will be.
which he hopefully will be. I mean, I would love to have you on the podcast. Please come on down to Coastal Fitness, Watson Road, North Point, Hong Kong, and we would happily have you serve your little whiskey and have a conversation about life.
Do you feel like if he genuinely, it's a hypothetical that could happen.
I mean, it's just on that, like any athlete at the top of their game.
Okay.
Not even, I'm fascinated by high performing individuals in any aspect of life, whether it's business, whether it's sports, whether it's, I mean, honestly, you name it.
I mean, who's the chap that does the Diary of a CEO?
Stephen Bartlett. Would love to have him on.
Same again. Well, so you're speaking about learning from them, but Conor McGregor, you said because he's somebody that doesn't open up that much. Diary of a CEO. What's the end goal there? What do you want to learn? Do you want to learn about him, or do you want to learn about?
I love like connecting the dots on people.
Okay.
Right. So people who have achieved, like out of the ordinary things in whatever their discipline is, like what was the path that got them there? That's what because that for me is where so much of the learning is, right? Because your past is essentially what makes you who you are today. Yeah. And so, yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I don't have a person actually that I really aspire to have sit down on this podcast. And at the same time, everyone's got a unique story.
Absolutely.
Like you have a very unique story. I mean, like, honestly, and that's probably the most boring, unclickbaity answer, but it's like anyone who's willing to share, I would love to have down on the podcast. Come on, Connor.
Come on, Connor. Let's have it.
See you soon. Al, I want to say to you, thank you very much. Not only for being on this podcast, but for sharing everything so openly and honestly. I know that's something that you've been really working on, and we can all see it here. And we bloody love having you as a part of this team and everything you're doing and helping to impact more lives around the world. So thank you, my friend.
I'd also like to say thank you as well to you, Ed, and to everybody here on this team. You guys have made it incredible. I've never felt more happy. And even people, when I go back and see old friends, they say, Alex, you're so happy now. And I go, yeah, I am. I genuinely am. And there would not have been the case if it hadn't been for you, the mindset, the team, everything. It's been eye-opening. And I have to say thank you to everybody here. And any that 30% of not loving me is getting smaller every day. And it's patience, of course, that everyone they'll slip up time to time, mistakes happen, and I appreciate every bit of patience anybody ever gives to me, no matter if it's me in any capacity. I say thank you so much for just being you, listening, and giving me the time and place to express myself. So thank you, Ed, and thank you to the team.
Legend, you're very welcome.